Hey folks, welcome to the channel, Thinking Theology. I'm Don. I don't speak dogmatically about things. I'm more a philosopher analyzing theological concepts and ideas. The one we're looking at today is, you saw the title, Is Divorce a Sin? Without defining the terms, I'll go with the colloquial or commonplace understanding of when people think about sin. Normally it's some kind of offense to God and he forbids it. So without going into all that, I'll just work with that basic conception when we say, is something a sin? Is getting divorced a sin? The straightforward answer is no, it's not. I'll just start with this basic precept before just looking at a verse or two. But divorce is such a painful process. Sociologists and psychologists consistently over the decades, when they've done their studies and this, have ranked it second behind the death of a child as the most traumatic or painful event in a human being's life. So let's start with the premise that there's absolute agony that a person has undergone when they've gotten divorced. Maybe they've gotten left, maybe it was too abusive, maybe whatever the circumstances are. So the notion that a loving and kind God, who's represented in the Bible as a father, a loving father, would then say, oh, you got divorced, you went through all this pain, and now I'm going to dump more on you by judging you harshly. That just doesn't pass the sniff test to me. Let's see a couple of things in the Bible about what is said about divorce, because some people just have this big problem that is like, not only are when they're thinking about getting divorced or undergoing a divorce, that they think God is going to be, on top of the pain they're going through, God's going to be additionally mad at them because he forbids it. Well, let's just see. The Hebrew Bible, right, the Old Testament, more properly called the Hebrew Bible, states what is now in observant Jewish circles called a get. A get is a writ of divorcement. So let's look at Deuteronomy 24, 1-4, and just see what it says here. When a man takes a wife and marries her, and it happens that she finds no favor in his eyes because he has found some indecency in her, and he writes her a certificate of divorce and puts it in her hand and sends her out from his house, and she leaves his house and goes and becomes another man's wife, and if the latter husband turns against her and writes her a certificate of divorce, notice it doesn't say that it's forbidden to write these certificates of divorce. It says if he does this, then here's how to handle it. And he puts that certificate of divorce in her hand and sends her out. If the latter husband dies who took her to be his wife, then her former husband who sent her away is not allowed to take her again to be his wife, since she has been defiled. For that is an abomination before the Lord, and you shall not bring sin on the land which the Lord your God gives you as an inheritance. Okay, so the issue here is not divorce is a sin. It just says here are the conditions. If these certain things happen and the man divorces the wife, then here's how to handle it. So it isn't preempted by saying divorce is a sin, divorce is wrong, divorce is bad. Adultery is a sin, but let's see how, now let's move into like a gospel. Just look at a record there, okay? Matthew 5:31-32. Remember, it's as important when studying argumentation and reasoning and looking at the rationale behind certain things to see what isn't there as much as what is there, okay? In Matthew 5:31-32, it has been said, reference to the Hebrew Bible, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery, and anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. So again, notice what's not there. It's saying that if you divorce her, here's what's going to happen, and those things are bad. The preference, as anybody who's been through a divorce, anybody will know, is to not get divorced. That is the preference. And basically, that's what's being said here. You don't want to be the cause of, just don't take it lightly that you're going to divorce someone, because you might be causing someone to go down a bad path. So generally in life, as we know from experience now, but even biblically, the biggest problem with keeping a marriage together is adultery. People stray, but there's a remedy for that. a certificate of divorce, or you go through the process of getting a divorce. So there are specific grounds for getting a divorce, but the bigger issue appears in the text here for people in marriage to be peaceful and content. Not just in a marriage, but even as individuals. Like, the texts are written individually for people. A lot of people read them, obviously. That's why Christianity is as big as it is, and Judaism is as big as it is, and other religions are as big as they are, because there are texts written and a lot of people share the faith in those texts. But it's written to the individual, by and large, firstly, so that you can be peaceful. And that seems to be what takes precedent here, that in a marriage, if things are going horribly or very poorly, then try to reconcile it. And if you can't, it's okay to get divorced. So fighting for the marriage is key. It is significant. And so you try to make it work, even if in the end it fails. And so that might take a little bit of the additional burden off of you of thinking that, wow, I'm brutalized now. It takes years, and you don't fully get over a divorce in a marriage, but you're being brutalized through the process. And then the additional burden of thinking, wow, on top of this, God might do X, Y, and Z to me on Judgment Day or whenever. It just seems unduly harsh. And in my opinion, it is unduly harsh, that belief. It's an improper belief, or better yet, an incorrect one based on a reading of the text, whatever emphasis you place on the text. So there you go. Leave your comments, folks. I read them. I hope this helps in some way. Have a great day. I'll see you on another video, and keep thinking theology.